Hey, what's going on everybody? Simple Duck here, and today I'm going to take you through my new Magicka Nightblade Frost Staff build. This is a PvP build that I've got set up mainly for running in a duo. Me and my buddy Zero Maz, we run duo all the time, so this build is really geared toward that. It can work really well in duels as well, but if you're in like an outnumbered situation, some kind of 1vx, then this might not be the right build for you. But if you do run in a small group, 2-3 people, this build is amazing for damage and support. So let's go ahead and let's jump into the skills real quick. Alright, so on the main bar, our main DPS, obviously the main bar is your Frost Staff, but our main DPS is going to come from Funnel Health. The reason I'm running Funnel Health, like I said, I run in a duo, so this gives a heal to me and my partner. If you're not worried about that, then run Swallow Soul. Harness Magicka is my second ability here. Now, with all the Magicka builds that are out there right now, there are a ton. Lots of people are running Magicka this patch, so Harness Magicka is really important, and it's very important to have it on the main bar. It saves you from having to swap to bubble, and it can really come in handy being on that main bar. But it gives you the bubble. It also gives you Magicka back when you get hit by spells. So it only absorbs spells, but when you get hit by them, it gives you Magicka back, and you can actually gain more Magicka than it costs to cast it, which is incredible. So you're actually gaining Magicka for using this in a fight, so definitely something good to have on the bar. Third, we got Shadowy Disguise. I know a lot of people run Dark Cloak. I usually run Dark Cloak, but you get the 8% damage mitigation now, which is nice, but the time on it is so small that it just wasn't worth it for me, so I run this one. Now, with the playstyle that I run with this build is a lot of cloak and then heavy attack. And with this, when you cloak, you get a guaranteed crit if your attack goes off within 3 seconds of entering cloak. So you can't really wind up a full heavy attack, but you can get a heavy attack built up almost to the very end of it, launch it off, hit a funnel at the same time, and you're gonna get a guaranteed crit. So I'm hitting people really hard with those heavy attacks with the guaranteed crit. So I'm really enjoying Shadowy Disguise this patch over Dark Cloak. But it's kind of up to you. You can run either one. It's not really a big deal. Alright, Frost Clench. Frost Clench, let me... There we go. Let me get adjusted here because Frost Clench got me excited. I am so pumped about this skill. I have so much fun with it, and this is the bread and butter of this setup right here. Okay, you gotta run Frost Staff. It won't work if you run Fire or Lightning. Frost is ridiculous. Okay, so Frost Clench gives you small upfront damage, a small dot. Together, it's decent damage, but the reason we run it is the 6.5 second Immobilize. Now, Immobilize, a lot of people don't realize that in Immobilize, you cannot be immune to it. So, what this forces people to do, because of the long duration, nobody wants to sit in one place and not do anything. So, when I hit them with it, most of the time, they're going to dodge roll. They're going to get out of it, because dodge roll is the only way that they can get out of that route. It is the only way. If they crit charge or streak or any gap closers like that, they're still in the route at the end of it. So the only way they can get out of the route is to dodge roll. So most people are going to dodge roll to get out. Now, because it's an Immobilize, as soon as they dodge roll, I can hit them again. So they're rooted again. They just wasted all that stamina on a dodge roll and they're right back in the route. So if they dodge roll again, I mean, you can keep this chain going, and this skill is incredible for running people out of stamina. I run people out of their stamina so fast with this, and against Sorks, you can run them out of stamina and Magicka, because a lot of Sorks will dodge roll until they run out of stamina, and then they'll start streaking. But like I said, they're still in the route at the end of the streak, and they can only streak in the direction that they're looking, and they can't turn while they're in the route. They cannot turn. So wherever they're facing when you hit them, that's where they have to streak to. And if they're in a bad position, they're just screwed. They either have to sit in it or streak into mobs or streak into something. I mean, they're gonna get themselves in a bad situation. So this is incredible. You can run people out of resources. It doesn't have a huge cost to you. With the way we've got the gear and the stats set up, you can cast this a lot, and it's not going to affect you, and it's definitely going to drain your opponent's resources quick. So Frost Clench, amazing. Also, make sure it is Frost Clench. Do not take Frost Reach. It doesn't have the same effect. You get longer range, so you can hit people from further away, but you don't get a 6.5 second immobilize. It's much shorter, and people will sit in it. I've noticed, I tried both, and they will sit in that shorter one, but they won't sit for 6.5 seconds. So make sure you go with Frost Clench. Next up, Radiant Mage Light. I've gone through this one before in a previous build video as to why I use Radiant over Inner Light. Two reasons. Number one, you get the spell crit from both, but with this one, you cannot be stunned from stealth attacks, and you take 50% less damage from stealth attacks. So if people are trying to gank you, not gonna work. It is not gonna work. Stamina Nightblades or Magicka Nightblades, either one, if they hit you from cloak with surprise attack or concealed weapon, you won't get stunned, and you take 50% less damage. People who like to sneak up and do Wrecking Blow while they're in stealth, 50% less damage. It's incredible. I love this skill. The second big perk to this over Inner Light for PvP is the stealth detection. Now, both of them get stealth detection, but Radiant Mage Lights is 12 meters. It's 12 meters. Inner Lights is only 6, so it's a huge increase in the radius. You're doubling it, and at 12 meters, you can keep this up and keep pretty much anybody you're fighting from going into stealth. So very good to have Radiant over Inner Light, in my opinion. Alright, next we've got our ultimate, Soul Harvest. Good magic damage. We're Magicka build, so that's good. Good magic damage, 20% extra damage against that target for 6 seconds, and if it's a healer, 30% less healing done for those 6 seconds. So this is really good. Gives you 10 ultimate if you kill somebody, and it only costs 50, so it's up a lot. It's up a lot, so take advantage of the fact that this is up a lot, and it increases all your damage by 20%. Another thing that you can do, something I like to do that's changed with the Thieves Guild patch, I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of this, but Mage Light now triggers Might of the Guild. Might of the Guild gives you 20% extra damage on your next attack. So, hit Radiant Mage Light, then Ultimate. You're going to get 20% additional damage on top of it. So that is very important. So if you want to get a nice big hit in there, make sure you do that. And you can also Radiant Mage Light, Cloak, and then hit it. So you're getting 20% damage from this. You're getting additional spell power because you're cloaked, and it's going to be a guaranteed crit. So keep that in mind. There's nice little combos that you can work with this setup. So keep that in mind and have fun with it. But let's move on to the back bar now. This is going to be our Resto bar. First thing up, we've got Structured Entropy. Gives us 8% max health. That's not terribly important for this build. What we're really using it for is the Major Sorcery. I know a lot of people use Sap Essence to get that buff. I don't, not with this build, because I like to stay at range. I don't want to be close to people. So I throw this out, and you get 20 seconds of Major Sorcery, which is nice. And again, it also procs Might of the Guild. So I'm actually going to go a little out of order here, but with my ultimate on this bar, Soul Tether. So if I'm on this bar, I can hit Structured Entropy, and then Soul Tether. So I'm getting the 20% extra damage from Might of the Guild. So I like having something that can proc Might of the Guild on both sides that I can work with an ultimate. Next up, Healing Ward. Your main bubble, your main heal. Don't really need to explain that one for most of you guys. Mass Hysteria for your CC. One thing that most people don't really focus on and may not know about or just forget about with this skill is for 4 seconds after they're out of the fear, whether they CC break or they sit all the way through, for 4 seconds they're snared and they do 15% less damage. So keep that in mind. Fear as often as possible to keep that 15% mitigation up. Next up we have Double Take, 20% dodge chance, and your Major Expedition, but to be honest, Major Expedition in this patch is kind of garbage. It's 30% extra move speed, which 30% move speed is nice, but it just feels so slow in PvP right now, so it's there mainly for the 20% dodge chance. Relentless Focus is our next one. You can take the other morph that gives more damage. I use this mainly just for the 8% damage increase. I went with the morph I have now because of stamina recovery. I'm not really using it for the Assassin's Will proc. Not really using it much for that. But if you do use it for that, then you can go with the other morph that gives you more damage. That's not a problem. I just wanted a little bit of stam recovery, so I went with this one, and with the way that I play, I don't really focus on using that proc too often. And then we've got Soul Tether, which we went through already. So yeah, that kind of wraps up our skills here. So let's go ahead and jump over into the gear. Let's get into the gear here. We're running 5-piece Julianos, so we get a couple of crit, max Magicka, and the spell damage. So we got 5-piece Julianos. We've got 2 Torg's pack, so we get the 2-piece spell damage there. And then we're running 1 Kina for more spell damage from that, and 3-piece willpower. So I've got on the jewelry enchants, I've got spell damage, recovery. I know most people run spell damage on all 3. For this build to work right, I really had to go with a recovery there, and I'll show you why, but I do run food on this build, so recovery is a little bit low. You can do spell damage on this one if you really want to. It's not going to kill you, but for the way that I like to play, everything works just fine like this. So 3-piece willpower, recovery, spell damage, Kina, Torg's pack, and Julianos staffs. Now on the ice staff, you gotta have Nirnhoned. 18% spell pen is massive. It's gonna boost your damage by a lot, so make sure you get Nirnhoned. If you don't get Nirnhoned, or if you can't afford to get a Nirnhoned staff, just go with I can't remember the name of the trait, but the one that gives you armor and spell pen. You can go with that and it's fine. The reason I like Nirnhoned is that you get a little bit extra spell pen, you get 4% more, but it also gives you spell resists, so it's also buffing you defensively. On the gear, if you've noticed, it's all Magicka enchants, and it's all Impen. The only piece that's not Impen right now is my Kina shoulders, and that's just because I don't have Impen. If you do have Impen on Kina shoulders or on a Kina head, use that. But all Impen, that's going to boost your survivability by a ton, and it's augmented by your champ points. So yeah, that's it for the gear. Since we've kind of talked about the champ points, let me jump into that, and then I'll show you all the stats again, and that'll wrap it up. But here we go. For our champ points, I've got 43 in resistant. That reduces critical hits. Like I said, that boosts off of your Impen gear. Now, we've done testing with this. Resistant only works. It only works if you have Impen gear. If you're not running Impen gear, this doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually reduce the amount of damage taken from critical hits unless you have Impen. And the way you can look at that is right here, critical resistance. I've got 2442. If you change those champ points, this number changes. But if you have a 0 here, if you have no Impen gear and this is 0, and then you put points into resistant, it's still 0. Because it's based off of that number, so 14% of 0 is 0. Next up, we've got Hardy, Elemental Defender. I've got roughly 14% in each of those, 43 and 42 points. 5%, 10 points into Bastion, and then some points into Quick Recovery because that boosts the heal from your funnel health. Magician, I've got 10.5% cost reduction there. You can boost that up or drop it down based on whatever you need. I've got 100 into Arcanist for my Magicka recovery. And I'm just now starting to put points into Tumbling. So the rest of my points are going to go there. That'll give me dodge roll and break free cost reduction. The blue tree here, we've got Spell Pen. 50 points there. 100 points into Elemental Expert. That 100 points Elemental Expert is kind of like a must-have for Magicka builds now. So 100 points there, and then I like to do Spell Erosion, 50 points there, and then the rest I'm going to put into Shattering Blows to help against those Sorks. But I'll show you something with Spell Pen here in just a second. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for the champ points. So let me show you this. So with Spell Erosion, you get increased Spell Pen by 2,800, right? That's 2,800. Now if you look at your screen here, my resistance are 16.5. I've got 16.5 spell resist. So 2,800 Spell Pen knocks 2,800 off that number. And then because we're in light armor, you get another 4,800. So now you got 4,800, you got 2,800, and they're all dropping this number by that much. Then you've got your Nirnhone staff doing 18%, so it's huge. It's huge. Even if your damage numbers on the tooltip aren't that big, the amount of Spell Pen that we get to run with this setup does a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. It's a very important thing. But yeah, Spell Pen, it all stacks and it all does a flat number, which is awesome. Anyway, let me get back to the stats here. So I've got, you can see all my points into Magicka, 39,000 Magicka, 21,000 health, 9,300 stam. Spell damage, it's a little lower than most people, but that's because of the recovery that I put on. I'm at 2,400 spell damage. It's a little over 3,000 when I'm buffed up. 50% crit. And my recovery, once I actually put a gold enchant on that jewelry piece, this will be at 1,600. So I've got 1,600 recovery. I'm running the Atronach stone instead of I usually run the spell damage one, the apprentice, but I'm running the Atronach now just because I need a little extra recovery. And for some people this might be good. For some people this might seem really low. But with this build, you're going to be doing a lot of heavy attacks. You're going to hit them in the root. You're going to do heavy attack funnel. So you're going to be getting a lot of Magicka back because of the heavy attacks. So it's really not that bad. Plus, your main attack, funnel health, it is so cheap. It's so, I mean, look at it, it's 875. So it's really cheap to cast. So you don't need a ton of recovery to make up for that. Your other spells do cost a little bit, but your main damage is pretty cheap, so you can get away with the low recovery. But this is my build. This is what I'm running right now. 99% of the Magicka Nightblades out there right now are running Vicious Death and Proxy Debt, and I hate it. I hate that so many people do the same thing. I like to be different. I like to do something that no one sees anymore, that no one expects. Just be that something different out there in the battlefield, and this is what I decided to do. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully this build will help out. If you have any questions about skills or gear or anything, leave that down in the comments, and until next time guys, take it easy.